Again? You're trying to destroy the prize cash cow again? What the hell's going on here? Why is this concept so difficult to grasp for the pretend basketball players in the WNBA? Since they're having such a hard time understanding, Uncle Casey is going to explain this again. For starters, this so-called success that the WNBA has experienced this season, this success is nothing but an illusion. It is no different than the presidential campaign of cackling Cam Harris. There ain't nothing real about it. There is one reason and one reason only that millions of people are finally paying attention to the WNBA dump for the first time in 30 years. And because WNBA players can't get past their pride, because WNBA players can't get past their jealousy and envy, they have spent the entire season trying to butcher the cash cow that is delivering a mainstream audience. What do you not understand about this? How do you not realize that if Caitlin Clark is seriously injured, you are back to playing in the shadows? That mainstream spotlight that's shining a light on this dump, it will vanish. Those dreams of having bathrooms with running water, those dreams are gone. Those aspirations of achieving salaries above minimum wage, gone. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is the equivalent of having the winning lottery ticket in your hands. And what is the WNBA doing with the winning ticket? They are putting it in a paper shredder. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. There seemed to be an abundance of bad moods yesterday afternoon. The early slate of NFL games were mostly blowouts, but the late games in Sunday Night Football I thought were great. My Saints were poised to have their big moment, and they came out and laid a polished turd. You'll want to know why I have no faith in Dennis Allen? Yesterday, this dude got outcoached by Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni literally tried to hand the game to Dennis Allen, and Denise said, "No thanks, I'm more comfortable being a loser." But the bad moods that we were experiencing yesterday afternoon, it was nothing compared to the bad moods and the negativity that we saw in the WNBA dump. Maybe it's just me, but it always seems like the pretend basketball players in the WNBA are angry. They always seem to be bitter. For decades, I thought they were bitter because no one knew they existed. Today, they are finally getting the attention that they think they're entitled to, and the levels of bitterness seem to have elevated. If Angel Reese isn't playing the role of the ultimate victim, she's complaining about mythical racism. Sherry Swoops is a constant source of bitterness and negativity. Poor Kat Engelbert, she tries to promote the media-created rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and poor Kat, she gets accused of mythical racism. As a result, when the WNBA promoted the chase for the golden toilet last week, Kat Engelbert went out of her way to exclude the only recognizable star in her league from the promotion, and she pretended like Caitlin Clark didn't exist. She pretended like Caitlin Clark wasn't the only reason that people were paying attention, all to cater to the feelings of our unknown woke welfare collectors. Oh, feelings! I have to consider their feelings, KC. If I don't, my players will keep complaining and possibly go on strike. Oh, God! Oh! There will never be a labor strike in the WNBA. You want to know why? Because the players can't afford it. Most of the players in this league, they are living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe that's why Dijonai Carrington was filled with bitterness yesterday afternoon. Well, Casey, who in the hell is DJ Carrington? Oh, you know, she's one of the 143 players that's had beef with the cash cow this season. Dijonai Carrington has a long history of jealousy with Caitlin Clark and hating anyone who supports her. Back in June, the media claimed that Dijonai Carrington was booed by her home crowd in Connecticut after she openly mocked Caitlin Clark. Now, of course, the media conveniently failed to mention that there is no such thing as a home crowd in the WNBA unless it's Indiana. Everywhere Caitlin Clark goes, she is playing in front of her own fan base because those are the only people bothering to show up. But afterwards, Dijonai Carrington allowed her jealous emotions to take over, and she went on an emotional tirade on social media, where she accused fans of Caitlin Clark of racism, bigotry, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, claustrophobia, arachnophobia, cyberphobia, and aquaphobia. Now, that last one, aquaphobia, that claim was a bit ironic. Aquaphobia is the fear of water, which is a prevalent fear in the WNBA since they are not accustomed to bathrooms with running water. If you ever find yourself in an argument with a pretend basketball player in the WNBA, all you gotta do is turn on the sink and they will quickly disappear. Dijonai Carrington has proven throughout the season that she is jealous of Caitlin Clark, and at minimum, she just doesn't like her. So when she blatantly pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye, people naturally come to the conclusion that it was intentional. Makes it hard to claim that it was incidental contact when you have a long history of hating on Caitlin Clark and her supporters. As you guys know, yesterday was the playoff debut of Katie Rue. Didn't go well for the WNBA as Caitlin Clark lost to the women from Connecticut who refer to themselves as Suns 93-69. Well, Casey, don't you mean that it didn't go well for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Felines? No, I mean it didn't go well for the WNBA because as soon as Caitlin Clark is eliminated from the playoffs this week, their ratings will return to their rightful place in the pooper. Caitlin Clark had arguably the worst game in her career as the savior for this dump of a league. She played 36 minutes, had 11 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists. Now, for most of the unknown players in the WNBA, that stat line would make them an all-star. But the expectations are different for Caitlin Clark because she has talent. Throughout the season, Caitlin Clark has struggled against the Connecticut Sun. They seem to be that one team that Caitlin Clark will eventually have to defeat to win a championship. All superstar players have that one team that gives them problems. Michael Jordan had the Detroit Pistons, Peyton Manning and the Patriots. Angel Reese has the Rim, who always seems to block her wide open layups. Star players always seem to have that one team they struggle against, and the female Suns are that team for Caitlin Clark. However, there might be another reason that Caitlin Clark struggled against the female Suns yesterday. Early in the first quarter, Caitlin Clark, she's running the point, trying to get the felines into their offensive set. She's attempting to pass the miniature ball to one of her unknown teammates, and she collapses to the floor after getting poked in the eye by Dijonai Carrington. I'm going to show you a closer look here, and you can decide for yourself whether or not this was intentional. Well, KC, do you think it was intentional? You know, we've seen this happen before in the NBA. Throughout an 82-game season, there's going to be a handful of instances where someone gets poked in the eye. When it happens in the NBA, I never question intent. I always think it was accidental. Now, if Caitlin Clark was playing the Las Vegas Anonymous Faces and Kelsey the Plumber or Asia Wilson poked her in the eye, I would believe it was an accident. But with this being Dijonai Carrington, who's got a long history of bitterness with Caitlin Clark, and with her hand clearly aiming towards Caitlin Clark's eye, it's just hard not to think that it wasn't intentional. To make matters worse, there was no foul called on the play. If LeBron James falls on the floor untouched, it's a foul in the NBA. Caitlin Clark gets a black eye. WNBA officials, they seem to lose their whistle. Definitely doesn't help the overall perception that the league is against Caitlin Clark. But to her credit, Caitlin Clark refused to pour fuel on this ass fire. After the game, she was asked about her black eye and if it had any effect on her performance. Watch her response.
Obviously got me pretty good in the eye. I don't think it affected me. Honestly, I felt like I got good shots. They just didn't go down.
Throughout the season, I have talked about this illusion of success in the WNBA. I have explained countless times that the WNBA is not successful. Caitlin Clark is successful. And they're about to find out how much of an impact Caitlin Clark has had on their league. The illusion is about to be exposed. Caitlin Clark is going to be eliminated from the playoffs this week. More than likely, the Indiana Felines, they are going to get swept by the female Suns. When that happens, it's going to be up to other players in the WNBA to draw an audience. And they have consistently proven over the last 30 years they're not capable of doing that. If the WNBA is succeeding, how come they're on pace to lose $50 million this season? If other teams outside of Indiana are succeeding, how come the Connecticut Sun are practicing at the community gym? I have been telling you guys about the high school gyms in the WNBA. I'm sure some of you didn't believe me. I'm sure some of you guys thought it was hyperbole. It's the truth. Throughout the season and before game 1 yesterday, the female Suns from Connecticut, they have been practicing in a community gym. Now, real professional teams have their own practice facility. Hell, college programs have their own facilities. Not teams in the WNBA. No! Not only do the Connecticut Sun practice in the community gym, they had to share the gym this weekend because the community center booked another event. The Sun were only allowed to use half of the court because the other half, it was given to a group that actually paid to use it. I mean, just think about that. Your team is fighting for a championship, and you are so irrelevant that half the court, in your hometown, half the court is given to a team, I guess, from the local YMCA? If the coach of the Connecticut Sun were smart, they would have their players scrimmage with the boys from the YMCA. I mean, the only way to get better is to compete against stronger teams. Now, of course, the WNBA, they would never do that because they know what the end result would be. Maybe that's why Dijonai Carrington was so bitter yesterday. Maybe that's why she took out all of her aggression on Caitlin Clark. She was pissed off because she was sharing a facility with the team from the Y. Give me your thoughts on this. Was it intentional? Did Dijonai Carrington intentionally poke Caitlin Clark in the eye? Like I said, in 99% of cases, I would say it was accidental, but because of their history, because of everything that has happened in the WNBA this season, it's just hard not to think that this wasn't intentional. Also, what's going to happen when Caitlin Clark is eliminated from the playoffs? Will the WNBA be able to maintain their mainstream audience? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.